The killing of a sacred deer is all about control, the power struggle among those fighting for control, and the feelings that come when control is stripped away from you. The killing of a sacred deer is about a perfect family of 4. The father, Stephen, played by Colin Farrell, the mother, Anna, played by Nicole Kidman, the young daughter, Kim, played by Raffi Cassidy, and the young son, Bob, played by Sonny Suljic. This family lives a picturesque life until it's shaken up by the intrusion of Martin, played by Barry Keoghan. Before I continue on, I want to go over some of my usual disclaimers. First, there will of course be spoilers for the whole film, so I'm warning you now. Also, this is my analysis, my interpretation. Yours may be different. I'd love to hear your opinions on the film, but please just keep everything respectful in the comments. Also, on the screen are some content warnings for this film and discussion. I'll try to keep the description box updated if any more are brought to my attention. Stephen is the head of the Murphy household and really exemplifies this desire for control. At work, he's a successful cardiothoracic surgeon, and at night he goes home to an elaborate house, maybe mansion if you want to call it that. It's apparent that he has full control over his life. There's a stereotype or assumption that many of us hold that doctors are almost superhuman. They're well put together and seem to have control over all aspects of their lives. He has this high-stakes, high-effort, difficult control that he's clearly succeeding at. I think it's purposeful that he's specifically a cardiosurgeon, meaning he works with the heart. The heart is symbolic of life, so when he works on patients, he literally holds their lives in his hands. Of course, being a neurosurgeon or orthopedic surgeon, for example, would be equally important and be similarly difficult, but nothing else would define control quite as well as a cardio specialty. When he gets home, he also has a very controlling personality. The first interaction we see with his family, he's telling his son he needs to get a haircut.
Bob, you promised me you'd get a haircut, and you still haven't done it.
I'll get a haircut.
Tomorrow.
We also see him assigning chores to his kids. These are completely normal, reasonable requests that all parents make, but a lot of what we're shown as the viewer are these controlling moments. Stephen feels most comfortable having all the control, but he also likes to pretend that he doesn't have all the control.
That had nothing to do with the outcome. A surgeon never kills a patient. An anesthesiologist can kill a patient, but a surgeon never can.
He wants the control, but also doesn't want to take responsibility if anything goes wrong. We also learn that Stephen quit drinking 3 years ago. Anna says this was because of health problems, but it seems like that may not be the case, since she later assumes that Stephen's drinking on the job may have contributed to Martin's father's death. It's unclear when Martin's father died, but my theory is that Stephen had a wake-up call because of his role in killing Martin's father on the operating table. My theory is that Stephen didn't realize that his control over his life was slipping so much from his drinking. By drinking on the job and playing such a role in Martin's father's death, I think Stephen realized the direction his life was heading, which made him quit drinking to regain that control. As the movie progresses, Stephen and Martin's relationship starts to develop and go in a very weird direction, much to Stephen's dismay. Martin challenges the life that Stephen, until very recently, had such good control of. It starts out with simple things. Martin shows up to Stephen's work without notice. Stephen had gifted Martin a watch with a metal wristband, and Martin changes it to a leather band, almost signifying that Stephen doesn't have a say in what Martin wears or prefers. Before Martin and Stephen's relationship turns sour, Stephen invites Martin to dinner at his house. Martin seems like a very lost and helpless kid. For example, he talks about the Murphys' nice house and neighborhood in comparison to his not-so-nice house and neighborhood, something that he's powerless to control. When he talks to Kim, he talks about how he recently got addicted to cigarettes.
That was a mistake. I regret it. But it's too late now. I'm addicted.
He doesn't even have control over his own body. I don't believe children have as bloodthirsty a drive for control as adults may have, but we do know that the passing of Martin's father, by way of Stephen's surgery, changed him forever. Such a profound loss must have made Martin feel like his life and fate were utterly uncontrollable. The dynamic between Martin and Stephen seems to me like a fight for control. Stephen, of course, doesn't want to give that control up, and Martin just wants a modicum of control back in his life and wants vengeance by taking Stephen's control away. This power struggle progresses by Martin making odd requests of Stephen, putting him in a weird position to oblige, and then by Martin guilting or demanding that Stephen see him more often.
What's so important? Is it an operation? Are you at the hospital?
Martin becomes too much that Stephen pulls back from the relationship, and Martin is forced to take drastic action to regain Stephen's attention. Bob mysteriously falls ill, and Martin reveals that Bob, Kim, and Anna will all become sick and die, unless Stephen decides to kill one of them. It's unclear how this all happens. The worlds in Yorgos Lanthimos films usually feel slightly off from our reality, so I'd say magic is not off the table. My theory is that Martin is causing this by magic or something similar, because he can make the paralysis come and go whenever he wants. Martin says that he's doing this because it's the closest thing he can think of as justice for Stephen killing his dad. I do also think there's some desire there that either Martin will get to join the Murphy family in someone's place, or that Stephen will come join Martin's family and replace his dead father. While grasping for control of this whole situation, he tells Anna a blatant lie that Stephen has been flirting with his mother, when we know that it's really the other way around. So it's a cathartic vengeance Martin's looking for, but under the surface I believe he's also trying to gain some control over his life and over Stephen's life, that he is trying to have some say in the future of his own family. Looking again at Stephen, once his son gets sick, you can see how desperate he is to regain control of his family. He has to sit and watch, helpless, as someone else dictates the life and health of his family. It's a taste of his own medicine, literally. Stephen pretty much goes through the 7 stages of grief reacting to his family's illness, and symbolically he's grieving the loss of his absolute power. He starts with denial.
Unless you've any questions.
Then he reacts very angrily. Then he tries to bargain with Martin to see if he can convince him to change the situation. Then when he realizes there's nothing he can do, the sadness hits. And then he finally accepts what he has to do. Again, it's reasonable that a father would be upset to see his kids sick like this, but behind the emotions, I think it's all symbolizing Stephen's domineering impulses and his discomfort of feeling so powerless. By contrast, Anna handles this situation much more calmly and rationally.
You'll eat it later.
That's right. That's right. Now, chew it. Swallow.
Leave him alone. He said he doesn't want it now.
He's going to eat them right now.
As Stephen's family gets sicker, verifying Martin's premonitions, Stephen realizes that all the power and control now lie with Martin, and decides to hold Martin captive in the basement. The film plays with these power balances in an interesting way. Martin is tied up and held at Stephen's whim, so you would think he's now powerless, but actually he still holds the secret to this mysterious illness and the fate of the Murphy family. Later on, Anna lets Martin go because there's nothing he can do anymore.
It's not going to make any difference, Stephen. It's not going to solve anything. We both know that.
Once Martin's set this train in motion, there's not really anything he can do to stop it. The only person who can stop it at this point is Stephen, who needs to decide which of the family members to kill, or else they'll all die. So really the power lies with Stephen. Once Stephen regains this power, however, he doesn't want it. He doesn't want the burden of choosing who in his family dies. He does as much as he can to take this responsibility off his hands. He visits the kid's school to ask the principal which kid is better. It's obviously an inappropriate question to ask even on the surface, but it's made more haunting with the context we as the viewer know, which is that this will inform his decision about which kid to kill. When Bob reaches the final stage of his illness, Stephen realizes that he needs to make a decision and pull the trigger, literally. But even then, he leaves it to a Russian roulette type of game, completely taking the decision out of his hands. Even when he has near misses, he doesn't follow up on the decision that was made for him, He just takes another spin until he finally hits a target. I do wish the ending was a little more clear. To me, it's confusing and ambiguous. The only thing I can discern is that everything seems to revert back to the status quo in the end. The family, although forever changed, is still together. The power dynamics are the same as they were in the beginning, and Martin is still there watching on the outside, unable to join the family. Focusing for a bit on the family, once the family realizes that Stephen holds their fate in his hands, they let Martin go and all plead their case with Stephen. I was really fascinated seeing how the family dynamics broke down as they got more desperate to survive. What's probably most shocking is how Anna suggests they kill one of the children.
I believe the most logical thing, no matter how harsh this may sound, is to kill a child. Because we can have another child. I still can, and you can.
You would expect a mother to sacrifice herself for her children. Kim is very self-serving as well. She tries to run away so she can't be the one sacrificed, and later does this whole over-the-top routine about how she would love to sacrifice herself for her family, which isn't believable for a second. She's also just completely callous and heartless about her brother's worsening condition.
Dad! Quick, Bob's dying!
It's kind of funny to see this caricature of this sibling relationship and rivalry. Siblings can be so brutal to each other without even a second thought. But it also goes to show how deep in survival mode they are. Bob, however, takes a different approach than the others. Where Anna and Kim each threw the rest of the family under the bus, Bob's approach is specifically to appeal to Stephen's desire for control. Most of Bob's tactics have to do with showing Stephen that he's submissive, that yes, the father has full control over the son. Remember how earlier in the film, Stephen said that Bob needed a haircut? Towards the end of the film, Bob cuts his own hair off in an effort to please his dad. He also offers to do the chores that Stephen had assigned him earlier. All of these instances show that Bob will submit to Stephen's requests now. He also does a little bit of sucking up, saying that he wants to be a cardiologist now, just like his dad. Before he had said that he wanted to be an ophthalmologist, like his mom. This could be true, or he could just be sucking up to better his chances of survival. But Bob also still has normal conversations with his father, like when he tells him about his 3 best friends at school. I assumed he would say his 3 best friends are his family, his sister, mother, and father, but no, he still has this innocence about him, where he's not pushing as hard as the others in his family to save himself. This is what makes it all the more heartbreaking when, ultimately, he's the one that's sacrificed for the family. The Murphy family's reactions are all symbolic of traditional family dynamics, with the overbearing man of the house having the final say on all decisions. Stephen's controlling personality was what caught most of my attention throughout the film, but it's also worthwhile to look at the gender dynamics in this family and world. Anna is an ophthalmologist, a wife, and a mother. She also demonstrates control over the children, but it's usually in a more caring, motherly manner. She takes control over her family, but it's pretty clear that her control comes second to the husband's control. Whether out of preference or duty, it's unclear. On a few occasions, Anna brings up this black dress that Stephen likes. She always phrases it as, "I wear this dress to please you."
I bought that dress that you liked. I'll wear it for you tomorrow. I can't show it to you now. It needed alterations. I'm picking it up tomorrow.
Pleasing her husband is more important than picking out an outfit that she herself likes. Another example of this submission is how they have sex. With the code word general anesthesia, they basically roleplay that Anna's under anesthesia, and Stephen can do whatever he wants to her body. It's a metaphor for Anna releasing all her power and control to Stephen, building him up, and in turn leaving nothing for herself. Another important moment showing this dynamic is this moment in the hospital when they're discussing the children's medical care.
But right now the boy can't eat. He's paralysed in both legs, so I'm sorry. I'm not remotely interested in your medical opinion.
It's messed up, but the emotion is understandable. Stephen is obviously upset that his children are in this position, and that no one seems to know what's wrong with them. But taking it out on his wife like this was completely cruel. Any parent, regardless of medical-related knowledge, is allowed to have an opinion on the medical care of their child. But may I remind you that Anna is an ophthalmologist herself, so she would probably know more than an average person would, even if it's not specifically an eye-related issue. And Anna was agreeing with the other medical professionals there. It was Stephen who was going out on a limb, disagreeing with everyone out of desperation. It's sad to watch him mansplain to her that she doesn't know what she's talking about. It's telling that even in a situation like this, where the husband and wife are on similar playing fields regarding their careers, there's still a clear pecking order of who's the boss and who has the final say. Of course, later, as previously discussed, Anna is put on the same level as the children when it comes to Martin's curse. Stephen, as the leader of the Murphy household, is the decision maker. Everyone else, Anna, Kim, and Bob, are pawns at his mercy. As a teen girl, Kim also plays an interesting piece in the family puzzle. She fights against control, as most teenagers do. As a child, she doesn't really have autonomy over her body or her life. Her mother tells her not to slouch. Her dad is telling all his coworkers that Kim got her first period.
I'm on the phone all day.
Our daughter started menstruating last week.
Great.
Yes. She was a little scared, but she's okay now.
We see her continue to slouch and tell Martin about her period, both actions in an effort to fight against her parents' control of her. She can't control her own body since she keeps losing her MP3 players, and she has no say in getting her period and starting the transition to womanhood. Another example is when Stephen tells Kim that she needs to wear a helmet if she rides Martin's motorcycle. She says she does wear a helmet, but when we see them riding the motorcycle, they're not wearing helmets. She tries to rebel and resist parental control, but when she gets sick, she has to allow her mother to help her. We then also see her given under Martin's control. He introduces her to smoking. He also asks her to sing, and she sings like his little songbird. Most telling of all, though, is when she instinctively tries to play general anesthesia with Martin. It's unclear why she does this. Is it because she saw her mother do this before? Or is it because she thinks that's what girls are supposed to do? Girls are supposed to submit themselves to men. And this is the most interesting part for me, because Anna and Stephen could just be having a bit of fun in the bedroom. But the fact that Kim has already latched onto this idea suggests the circular nature of behavior in society. You repeat what your parents do. They're dynamic and power. You do what you see other women around you do. And the cycle continues regardless of what you actually want. Kim has already learned what her place in this world is. There's also a lot of religious imagery in the film. The story of Iphigenia from Greek mythology is briefly referenced in the conversation between Stephen and his kid's principal. I'm not a mythology expert, so I'm honestly getting most of this from Wikipedia, but the story goes that Agamemnon kills one of Artemis's sacred stags, hence the film's name, The Killing of a Sacred Deer, which then causes Artemis to make Agamemnon kill his daughter Iphigenia if he wants his troops to continue on to battle. It seems like this film wasn't directly intended to be an adaptation of the tale, at least not originally, but it seems that along the way the director and writer realized the similarities and embraced them, throwing in some references along the way. The film is also bookended by classical songs about Jesus' crucifixion. All of this helps to set the tone of this epic, tragic tale that will be told forever, but we can't do anything to change. An important theme here is also how the man in control is shown to be godlike. Again, going back to Stephen's job as a cardiothoracic surgeon, doctors are sometimes given the critique that they're playing God. They decide who lives and dies, whether that's healing people and interfering with the natural order of things, or whether it's causing mistakes and lifelong complications or death, such as what happened with Martin's father. Doctors in general get this commentary, but as I said earlier, it's even more intentional that Stephen is a cardiosurgeon, working with the heart, which is symbolic of life. And with this work, Stephen literally gets blood on his hands. Stephen, who is used to controlling the life force of his patients, is used to being in control. When his control is taken away, we see how he's used to controlling everything, such as when he tries to make his paralyzed son walk, like a puppet master does to a puppet. Martin also makes Stephen watch the movie Groundhog Day, and we specifically see a scene where Bill Murray's character asks, "How do you know I'm not a god?" The circular timeline of Groundhog Day also points back to the circular nature of tragedies and myths. If you've seen Hadestown, you know what I'm talking about. Being stuck in this loop that you can't break free of, and in a tragedy's case, you know there's an inevitable sad ending coming. The men in power are also treated like gods. They're put on a pedestal. Towards the beginning of the film, Martin's mother tells Stephen how beautiful his hands are, and she kisses them. When Martin is being held captive, the children come almost to observe and pay their respects. Anna nurses Martin's wounds and kisses his feet. When the power shifts back to Stephen, Anna then kisses his hands like Martin's mother did earlier. While the family makes their cases to Stephen, Kim goes on a very odd monologue where she all of a sudden sounds like she's speaking in Old English to a priest in a confessional booth.
Let me be the one who atones for your sins, Dad. Kill me right here in front of your eyes so that you can be sure that I die in case of fate spares me at the last moment. Kill me right here in front of you.
It's very odd, but I love the intentional weirdness and formality of the script and the performance here. That's it for my thoughts on The Killing of a Sacred Deer. I hope it makes sense. I hope you liked it. I'd love to hear other thoughts on the film, any other theories anyone has. I'm so glad the strike is over so I can talk about movies again. I have to plug some related movies coming to theaters. Go see Saltburn with Barry Keoghan. Go see Poor Things, the new film by Yorgos Lanthimos. And I hope to see you in my next video. Bye!